Be empowered. Be strong. Take charge. Speak life. Live life abundantly. Get with it now. You are now entering the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is, where we debate, debunk, educate, empower, impart, and raise awareness on all things related to health, healing, and holistic well-being, body, mind, and spirit. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Greetings and welcome to another episode here in the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is, and I am your girl, Nurse Coach Jean Turner, the hostess with the mostest health awareness and wellness information and education on the planet. Yeah, I said it, and I'm on a mission to encourage, inspire, and empower you to take charge of your health, to be a good steward over your health, your temple, which is not your own, but the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so how you all doing? It's so good to be back in the chat room with you all. If you are joining us via live stream, go ahead and hit your girl up on Facebook and Instagram at Health Chat with Coach Jean or Jerry Royce Live. And look, go ahead and show me a little love, okay? And tell everyone, lottie-dottie, everybody, that Health Chat with Coach Jean Global Podcast is now live streaming. And if they are not able to tune in now, you know replays are always available at Apple, iHeart, Amazon Music, and Pray.com. And also, we got sponsorship and commercial ad spots available. So again, hit your girl up. Health Chat with Coach Jean at gmail.com or send me a DM here on Facebook or IG at Health Chat with Coach Jean. And so I am very excited. And I know if you've been listening to Health Chat with Coach Jean for any amount of time, you're probably saying, Coach Jean always excited. But I'm excited. I'm excited about this week's episode. Just to share a little bit, I was recently on a panel discussion prior to going on vacation, and we were discussing how some things that we used to do that unfortunately this current generation is unfamiliar with, right? And so things that we, and when I say we, I'm particularly talking about my generation. I'm a baby boomer. Those of us, you know, who grew up in the 60s and 70s, you know, there's some things that we may not have passed down to our children. And if we did pass it down to our children, they may not have passed it on to their children. And so we have a whole generation who is unaware of how to fix GMAs and Big Mamas and Grandma's potato salad or some other family recipe. We have an entire generation who may not know that their great-grandfather or grandmother or even great-great-grand were leaders in the civil rights movement. We have an entire generation who doesn't know of or value community because there are no more Nosy Rosies or it was Miss Fanny. She was the one in my day growing up, or whoever it was that watched out for us, watched upon our neighborhood, you know. Back then, we thought they were just being nosy. It was like, oh, I can't stand them. They so nosy. They always up in my business, right? But in reality, they were looking out for us, keeping us on the straight and narrow. They were the ones you would always see sitting out on the stoop. I'm from New York, so we had stoops. They sat out on the stoop or hung their head out the windows in the projects, you know, and reported back to your mom what they saw you do, what they heard you say. So we have an entire generation now that does not know or understand the value of a village. And so we had that discussion on how do we bridge that gap? How do we not correct, but yeah, some of that too, because some of this generation do need correction. But how do we connect the generations so that our history and our family traditions don't get lost or die? we've got to ensure that we're passing on vital information from one generation to the next, and that the passing of the vital information of future generations, it is this that brings me to our topic for this evening and this week here in the chat room: why family health history matters. Why it is important that we know our family history. Number one, we know it, and then that we pass it on to our children. They pass it on to their children, and it is passed down to future generations. And so my guest joining me this evening, this week here in the chat room, I am so excited. I mean, I'm just elated. Let me tell y'all right now, I am just so excited that this young man is here with me tonight here in the chat room. And so, look, he is no stranger to the Positive Power of 21 family. Mr. Ralph STOWE is the founder of Jazz for Prostate Cancer Awareness, which is an organization that was birthed in honor of his brother, New York City jazz legend, trombonist James Jimmy STOWE, who succumbed to prostate cancer at the age of 61. Encouraged by his urologist, Ralph quickly became an advocate for the education and early detection of prostate cancer, but it was his brother James's influence within the jazz community that compelled him to launch the Jazz for Prostate Cancer Awareness fundraising campaign and its 501c3 organization in honor of his brother. So without further ado, my homeboy found out yesterday, we had a nice conversation. He a homeboy straight out of Jamaica, Queens, New York. Hey, Ralph, are you in the virtual building?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Queens in the house.
Queens, look, Queens in the house. What?
Yes.
They not ready for that. They not ready for that now. They not ready.
No,
I'm
they're
gonna slow
not.
it down because I get excited every time I meet a homeboy, a homegirl, because I'm down here in the ATL. I just get excited. So how are you doing?
I'm fine. I was listening to some of the things that you're talking about. I'm excited about talking about the topic that you're going to talk about today. So I'm just excited to be your guest. I'm thanking you for inviting me.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm so grateful to you for taking time out of your schedule to join me here in the chat room this week. So thank you. And so, our topic this week, why family health history matters. And you have a unique testimony that brings to light the reason why knowing one's family health history is so important. So if you don't mind, will you briefly share your story, because it brought this truth to light for you and your family. So please share.
Yeah, my story was very interesting because it came out of nowhere as far as how I felt it did. As you talked about my brother James STOWE, Jimmy James STOWE, he was a legend in Jamaica, Queens, as far as his music, his trombone abilities. He went around the world with it. He got a chance to do a lot of real, cool stuff with playing with people like Tom Brown, and got on his album and did Funky for Jamaica, things in that regard. So he had an incredible life. I was always honored by his fame, because he played with everybody. I can just go down the list, and we can be here for an hour of all the people he played for. But what was devastating at one time, as he has all the health information, he has health insurance. He was a teacher. He was a recording artist. He toured. So he had money. He had all the resources that he can have to stay healthy, to be healthy. one day he goes to the hospital, or he goes to the doctor rather, and he's starting to get some symptoms that he wasn't really familiar with, but he kind of kept it quiet, because it was in his private area. So men don't really talk about things in that regard. And they did a biopsy, and he found out that he had prostate cancer. But what it was the most scary part is that it was at the 4th stage. So no one aware of him, no one brought him any information that, and I'm not sure the type of relationship he had with his doctor, but so when he was told that he had prostate cancer, he had to tell his siblings, which was myself, and I have 2 other brothers. I have a sister, and I have a brother, Wendell, and I have a brother, Philip, and myself. The doctor said, well, you know what, we need you to go and get checked. And when I got that information, I said, okay. I knew I didn't have the same symptoms or anything that was being described as what James had talked about. But, so I was like saying, wow, what is this prostate cancer? So, but lo and behold, when I got checked and took a biopsy, and my brother Wendell took a biopsy, and then my brother Philip, all in the same year, right after, learning about what was going on with James, we found out that we had prostate cancer on our prostate. And so it was a shock to us, and it was a shock to my sister, and we just had to deal with it. We found out quickly, it was something curable if it's caught local within the prostate, and all 3 of us, my brothers, Wendell, Philip, and myself, we had it localized. James, who had it at the 4th stage, was not as fortunate, and so he succumbed to it. So we look at it that our brother saved our lives. So that was really the fire that was in me to make sure that everybody else can have that same information and can be aware and have the opportunity to not succumb to prostate cancer.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Number one, my condolences to you and your family. I can't imagine, because I'm a cancer conqueror as well, I cannot imagine all of y'all going through that at the same time. Like, oh, my goodness. That way, I know that weight just for one person going through it and what I saw it do to my husband and my family. But for you and your brothers all at the same time, my God. Wow. So let me ask you this, let me ask you this. Knowing now what you know, as far as your family health history, family medical history, or family tree, however, you and your family call it by, how are you going about now? What steps are you taking now to ensure that you and your brothers and everybody are taking family medical history? How are y'all going about that now? Like, what ways are you going about doing that, if you are, and are you documenting it? Like, how are you bringing up these conversations now within your family?
Very interesting. Of course, awareness is the first thing. Now, I think your first question was, if I would have a chance to do this again, or have, now that I know about this information, how would I be different about it? It is about understanding how to detox. It's understanding what you're putting into your body, how you're eating. There's a lot of processed food we should not be eating. There's a lot of things that we should be balancing. We should eat more raw. We should eat more fruits. We should stay away from processed food in places like McDonald's and all the places that is selling type of foods that are not, not good for us. It doesn't break down well in our system. Our system can't take that. So learning about the importance of food and what and making sure that we now stay on a more of a healthy diet, more of a diet that helps our body, so that it can stay cleansed, it can stay detox. It's what I'm now understanding and sharing, and I see it in my siblings. We want to take care of ourselves. And we have other things. I have high blood pressure, so I have to deal with making sure that I regulate my blood pressure so that it won't get too high. I have a brother that is diabetic, so there's things that he has to do to make sure that he regulates and so it's about detoxing. It's about understanding the foods that we really should be eating. So that's the different approach that I'm doing since we discovered about cancer and stuff.
Yeah, and that is very necessary. And I'm glad you said that, because family history, family medical history, family health history, that is one of the reasons why it is so important to know that, so that when you go to the doctor with these things, like now there's a family history of prostate cancer that runs in your family, then your children, your grandchildren, and the men, they can present that health history to the doctor, and it can literally help to bring, not only are you bringing awareness to that, but it will help you from now on. You've already begun to take action to decrease your risk of developing other conditions, but it will help your children and your grandchildren and decrease their risk of possibly developing prostate cancer or diabetes or high blood pressure in the future. And that is one of the major reasons why it is important to know our family health history, family medical history. And so what have you begun to document your family medical history, like as far as asking questions to other family members, documenting some things?
Yeah, there is now we try to pay attention more, and we are sort of documenting what's going on, like looking at my siblings, the things that my sister's going through, and my nieces and the rest of the family. We try to just stay very in tune with that. It's, especially since we're getting older. There's things that's changing in our bodies. There's a lot of things that got introduced to me as I was doing this geriatric prostate cancer awareness. The importance of good health information. There's a lot of things that we kind of passed on to one another without really understanding, the credible information that we need to have for health. Now, and I want to circle back, because we're talking about, there's something that is hereditary. It's something that came from, like my brother had prostate cancer, and of course we found out that all four of us had prostate cancer, and of course we had removed our prostate, and we was able to survive and become cancer survivors. But there's also some challenges on. It may not also come from hereditary. It can come also from the culture, how we eat. Southern foods. Like, for instance, we like our fried chicken and all the other things that we have grown up, that was foods that kept us culturally connected, and we enjoyed that food. Banana pudding and black eyed peas and And we ate, that mainly because of the culture that we came out of. Sometimes we have to understand that there was a lot of things we ate that was not healthy, not agreeing, but we ate it anyway because we enjoyed it. And we didn't detox. We didn't drink the water to flush out. We didn't do enough fiber to get things out. When I started to learn that when you eat a hamburger, when you eat beef, that doesn't process well into our system. I heard it takes about 15 years to fully process a hamburger that you eat. It will break down. It will get all the nutrients that your body would have, but because of maybe how it was prepared, maybe it was greasy, maybe it was all the other things that was added to that hamburger, it stays. And if you ever notice, if you would throw a hamburger into a garbage can and go back to it a couple of days, a couple of weeks, you can see all the bacteria and stuff that came out of that meat. Could you imagine that when we eat that and it's not digesting well, it sits somewhere in your body, doing the same thing that I just described if you would have thrown into a can and then go back to it and see it. So those are important for us to detox, to understand the foods that causes that type of problem of those type of bacteria and stuff that we need to get rid of as soon as possible. So it can be hereditary, and you can say, oh, my brother had it, my father had it. Sometimes I also will challenge that it was part of our cultural eating and how we eat, that if we change that, it may go away. It can go away.
You're right. It can go away. Now, just because, and those who've been listening to my shows for any length of time know that just because somebody in your family has a condition or illness or disease doesn't mean that you're going to get it, right? That right. I understand that totally. And I hope those who are listening to this episode understand that as well. Everything is not genetic. There are some things that are genetic, correct, and those risk factors like genetics and age and our ethnicity, we cannot control those, but the modifiable risk factors, that's what you're alluding to, those modifiable risk factors, right, that may affect our family medical history and cause illness, disease, and different medical conditions. Like you said, the foods that we eat, our environment, our culture, right? Because look, you're right. As a culture, different cultures, ethnicities, we have common habits and common lifestyle behaviors, right? So it is important that we know what factors within our environment that could impact our health and well-being. So you are so right. I totally concur with everything that you said. So it is our environment. It is our DNA and genetics, and not even, our habits and cultural lifestyles and stuff, but the environment around us. Like I went to Iraq for 13 months. I was around burn pits that chemicals and feces and all of that was burning for 13 months. You see what I'm saying? So even the environment that we live in could be toxic, not just the air outside, but even inside the house, depending on relationships and the personal relationships. All of these things, because that can cause stress, which we know stress causes disease. Yes. So is that as well, So I agree with you, Ralph. I mean, all of these things, these are the questions and the things we need to keep in mind so that we can understand and get an idea of what medical issues and conditions run in our families, right? And document them so that future generations can know their history, because you'll be amazed at the number of young people living now that are clueless So what, and as a nurse, I've been a nurse for over 3 decades, I can tell you there are many people, the generation now, that are clueless as far as what runs in their family medical history.
Yeah.
They're clueless.
Yeah.
Mainly
mainly because no, it isn't. I mean, there's a lot of things that had broken that communication. You know, the way we're starting families, the way we you know, there's a lot of you know, mothers without husbands, and so the kid that's growing up, you know, it's growing up with just a mother. So there's a lot of things that's broken. He doesn't get to know his father because his father's not in the picture. Maybe the father was in the picture at one time and he's not in the picture, or someone passes away, you know, and when someone passed away, that side of the family doesn't stay connected with the in-law. So now you have children that don't get to know their mother's side who have passed away early, and so now that's a disconnect. Sometimes they don't understand, and then there's a lot of opportunities of where you get situations of adoption. I'm an adopted. I have a son that was adopted, so now I have to understand how, you know, as he's grown, he's now 18. He's healthy, but we have to be very in tune with what he could be connected to. Fortunately, right. I do know his biological mother, and there is a connection that I can stay with, but we don't know his biological father. That's the situation he came from. But now being his adopted father, who I raised him, you know, it speaks to what you're saying, you know, that disconnect. But it wasn't something that he didn't want. I had to stay with making sure he, you know, he gets checked. I pay attention to some of the things that could go wrong. Of course, he's, you know, he wears glasses, so you know, I wear glasses, and you know, just I guess that's a coincidence, but I know how to help him, you know, when it comes down to that issue, you know, getting glasses. And so, but that's the example of all the reasons why things, the next generation may not know a lot of stuff, because there's a lot of little breakage, a lot of little things that didn't cause it. They didn't want to be ignorant to it. They don't want to act like they don't care. It's just that we, the responsible generation, I call that us, was responsible for helping to bridge those gaps. If we have a millennial generation and beyond that seems to be out of touch of what needs to be done, maybe we can help them get that. I had an idea, and I think this should be an idea that should really help family reunions. I think family reunions should be health conscious. It should be a health platform. You know, when you get together with the family, it should focus on where it can be sponsored by a health practitioner, or because they can come on to your family reunion to talk about diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever that is the theme of that family that has that type of issue. Hospitals and stuff would love to showcase and talk and direct, and then that could be part of the family reunion. I think that should be the theme of a family reunion. Before you go and have the fun and get to see people you haven't seen in a long time, and get to meet people that you haven't met in a long time, you can start off with a health forum.
And let me tell you something. At the end of my shows, I usually do Nurse Coach Jean's Health Tips for the week. And that is one of the things I jotted down, exactly what you said. Family gatherings is a good time to discuss family medical health history, and that is outstanding. I totally concur. That is the perfect time to have somebody come in, and whatever the major medical health history is within that family, that bloodline, should be discussed. I totally concur, because that was one of the tips that I wanted to leave our listeners with this week. So you are spot on. And then another thing, Ralph, is, our parents and grandparents, because again, we are that, I'll talk about me, born early 60s, raised 60s, 70s. Our parents and grandparents didn't talk about personal stuff like that. And many of them didn't even know their family history, because either they didn't talk about it, because again, it was personal, and that generation before ours didn't talk about stuff that was personal like that, right? Or like in my mother's case, my Nana died when my mother was still young. So she didn't, you know what I'm saying? So that's another reason. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I was agreeing with you. Yes.
Oh, okay. And then the other reason is we have a lot of blended families these days as well. Like my family, my husband and I were both divorced, met each other, married, and we both brought children into our union. And so, blended families may not know or be privy to the medical history of, the bonus children. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes, yes, I do.
It's so many reasons why, this current generation, many of them, when they come into the hospital or to the doctor's offices, and I've encountered a lot of them over I've been in this profession over 30 years. They don't know, they're unsure. So there's many reasons. You are so right about that. But the onus is on us to make sure that our children and grandchildren are aware of family medical history, so that they can make better lifestyle choices, right? And then inform their doctors, because look, because you do prostate cancer awareness. The age that they start screening for that is what, 50 years young, 45 to 50 years young? Well, 40. If you have a family history of that, is it 40?
It's 40, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought at one point it was almost 50. But,
they brought that down. Yeah.
Okay, good. So that shows you how long I've been in nursing, right? But that's good, because if someone would have felt like your son probably need to get screened at age 30. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
If they know the history, that means their screening needs to be earlier than what is recommended by the American Medical Association. Same thing with, breast cancer. They don't start doing mammograms till 40, but now we're seeing a huge increase in young ladies with breast cancer, developing breast cancer in their 20s.
Wow.
So, like 28, 29, 30, and they don't even do mammals until they're 40. So, see, this is why it's important. Colorectal cancer, colon cancer, they don't do colonoscopies until age 50, but in family history, they may have to get them starting at 35, 40. So this is another reason why family medical history, knowing that, is so important.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
So, and that's why I appreciate you and what you're doing. Tell my audience a little bit about JAG for prostate cancer awareness, because what you're doing is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. It was born out of having a memorial for my brother when he passed away. He had lots of musician friends, and who at that time didn't know why he died. It's because men keep things within. They didn't want to share. When he was going through his ordeal, he kept it very private amongst his siblings, and so we honored his secrecy, as I say. So when he passed away, we had a memorial at a place called Thomasina's in Queens, and it was wall-to-wall musicians. They came out when they and my doctor, Dr. Isaac Kim, he also wanted to come out, mainly because he was also starstruck about who my brother was as a musician. So he came out to pay his respects. So with all these musicians, it was great music. It was folks that was there that that played with him for years. So while we was having a great time just honoring his legacy and just playing, my doctor said, "Does anyone know what happened to your brother?" I said, "No, everybody's kind of like keeping it a secret. It was like he passed away, and no one kind of talked about it during this memorial." So he said, "Would you mind if I go say something?" He said, "Sure." So within 7 minutes, he went up there to talk about the risk factors of prostate cancer. And as soon as he finished, he came back to the table that we were sitting at. It was quiet for a minute. People were processing it. But then with that, people started playing again. A lot of musicians were so curious because now they've learned about prostate cancer that happened to James. They wanted to know how do you get that? So by the end of the night, he spoke with maybe over 40 musicians. There was like 100. There was like 300 musicians in that place. About 40 of them had got his card, talked to him, and he was consulting while we was having this memorial. So when that ended, he kind of said, looked at me and said, "You got to do this." And I said, "Do what?" And he said, "You have to go into the communities and aware people that they're starving to understand this." And so that's how it was born. I took my brother's legacy of music that seemed to keep people in listening mode and ready to share. And my doctor was giving me great information about prostate cancer, and with the combination, I started that. That was back in 2011, and I've been doing it since.
Wow, I think it's so dope. I listened to the video that you sent me. I've been up on your website. And when you gonna come to the ATL?
Oh, I have a great friend there. I have a great. I have to go there for a lot of reasons, but yes, I want to go to the neighborhoods. I want to travel around this country and get people aware and share how we can get people to be very interested in understanding about wellness. So yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, and I will knock on your door to see if you can help me. Find a place to have this.
Yeah, I would love to attend. My husband and get my grown sons. We have 3 sons. I have a bonus one, and they're at that age. The twins are be 38 this year, so they're approaching that age, and we've already had those conversations. And by all means, let me know when you come into the ATL. But I just want to leave just a few Nurse Coach Jean tips for our listeners this week regarding, family medical history and how they can begin to find out more ways they can find out more about their family health history, family tree. And it's important that we begin to document this information so that we can pass it on, to future generations. I love what you said, Ralph, about the family gatherings, the family reunions, and I literally do have that as one of my bullet points because that is a great time and a great way to just bring this to the table and have these discussions, and start gathering that information. More is better. The more you know, the more you know what to do in order to decrease your risk for certain medical conditions, illnesses, and disease. And, start with the parents, the children, the siblings, and the grandparents. Start there. And then also, once you start there with gathering family medical history, then include the aunts, the uncles, any blood relatives should be included, period, right? Blood relatives, all blood relatives, you really need to know that their medical health history because of genetics, right? Because of the traits. And so,
right, but can I just say also, make sure that you also include the cultural way that we've been following each other. And we have to get rid of some foods that are developing those type of illness. So it's both generic and cultural. So sometimes it's like maybe we don't need to have a traditional banana pudding every time someone has a birthday. Maybe we can cut that back, so I'm suggesting that you may want to look at both tracks.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right. We talk about diet and dietary changes a lot here in the chat room, but you're right. And it really starts with the mindset when we talk about dietary changes. And I do a whole coaching course on that, because until the mind is changed, you'd be surprised, Ralph, at the number of people that tell me, oh, I can't do without my cake. I can't do without this. There are ways that you can satisfy a craving without the added junk. You understand what I'm saying, right? You just do a healthier version of it. But it starts in the mind, and you can train your taste buds. You can train your taste buds. So, that's a whole nother conversation. We've had so many discussions on that. I remember at the beginning of the year, I had a nutritionist in here, and we had a long conversation. We had about 2 or 3 episodes regarding that, but it's got to begin in the mind. But you're right. That's part of them common environments and common habits and lifestyles, behaviors dependent upon your culture and ethnicity and your environment. So you're so right. What we didn't talk about real quick that I want to cover, because I spent years in OB, any pregnancy losses within the family, early preterm labor, history of birth defects, history of allergies, whether it's food allergies, medication allergies, environmental allergies. All of that is important, and these are must-ask questions on top of what we talked about, Ralph, and what you brought up. And even ask about the causes of death. Well, why did Big Mama die? What was her cause of death? Because that tells a lot, too, what the family history might be like and how old were they when they were diagnosed. These are just some things that we need to begin to have the discussions, the conversations about with our families, and document, whether you want to write them down or document electronically, but we've got to begin documenting these things. It's like people will document Gma's potato salad recipe. Why not document this? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, very good point. Very good point. And again, I will even build on when you have your family reunion, and again, the idea of making all family reunion a health platform. It gets to a point where now it becomes a non-for-profit business in your family. That every time, every 2 years, you get together and you host a family health forum, and it's just a family reunion with a health forum. And if you do it, you can do that. You can register your name, Turner.org, and everybody, and then that now becomes a write-off. So now you're saving money and you're bringing people in to talk about health, and they want to come to you to talk about that, and because they want the business, they do that. As far as the hospitals, the local hospitals that they're going to bring in to talk about their services and their information about diabetes or whatever is being talked about. It kind of it's a business. It's a health business that you can turn your family into. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, that's an excellent point. And I appreciate that. Well, you know what? Like yesterday, we were having a great discussion, and the time just flew. So I knew we was on there an hour, and our time is up now. I don't know where the time goes, Ralph, but I want to thank you. I want to give you a special shout out for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me here in the chat room this week for this episode. Very important episode. And I am certain, normally I pray at the beginning of our shows, and I didn't this time, but I pray that what you shared tonight, what we discussed tonight, that our listeners are taken away with them, and those who will catch the replays on one of our major platforms will take away these key nuggets. So again, thank you so much for joining me. And I want to give a special shout out also to my producer, the Batman of Charm City, Mr. Jerry Royce Live himself. And to all of you, our listening audience, thank you so much for joining us here this week in the chat room, Health Chat with Coach Jean. And if you want to continue this conversation, or you want to connect with me, Nurse Coach Jean, for your health care and awareness needs, and to jumpstart and resume your wellness program, hit your girl up at www.spiritofawarrior.life, or hit me up at Health Chat with Coach Jean at gmail.com. Ralph, thank you so much. You're my homeboy. Reach out, let me know when you plan on coming to the ATL, and Monday and I'll make sure you squared away. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And Jerry Royce, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Peace and health, everybody. God bless and good night.
God bless. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you for joining us for another episode here in the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is. Until next time, if God says the same, I pray peace, health, love, and well-being for you and your family. God bless you.
You are listening to Jerry Royce Live Worldwide Podcast.